Peace and welcome to The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversations today. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, it's the first day of work for Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson as she starts the new session of the Supreme Court. A lot is on the docket for this session for the High Court, and we'll talk a little bit about it and the historical implications of having her as part of the conversation and making those decisions that affect millions of Americans. We'll have that conversation. Also, let's talk about inflation and the impact that inflations are having on all of us, as there are new polls and new research that shows that Americans are struggling right now due to inflation. Will there be some relief? We'll have that conversation. Plus, on Friday, there was a special day that was marked by women across the country called A Day Without Us, as women decided to take back their voice about the issues of abortion rights and so much, and reproductive rights of women and so much more. So we'll be checking in to talk a little bit about that and a whole lot more. So stay with us. That's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to The Culture. Welcome to The Culture and happy Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show this afternoon here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. We got a lot to talk about. Man, oh man, first and foremost, happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. But we have so much to talk about because this is a big, big day in Washington. Today, let's jump right into it. Today is the first day of work for new Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Now, if you see here, Judge Jackson is going to be a part of this session for the Supreme Court, the High Court of the land. And on Friday, you see a picture of her with President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris as she gets officially sworn in and brought into the court. And so there is a lot of hope. There's a lot of excitement. But I'm asking a question today. What do you expect from Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson in terms of her involvement being on the Supreme Court? Now, she's coming into a court that is still very, very conservative. It has a 6-3 conservative majority on the court. But the big thing that many legal analysts and lawyers and professors are looking at is the impact of her dissenting opinion. That is the big thing. And so when we look at, she may not be a part of the majority, but how she will interpret the law and how she will lay out her understanding of the law as it relates to millions of Americans is going to be crucial. Check this out, folks. I want to share with you just a little bit as we talk about this first day of court for Judge Jackson. But I want to share with you, and Keenan, let's throw that to use a couple of first quote on the screen here, bro. When we look at this, how Judge Ketanji, this comes out of April Ryan's story for The Root, where she mentioned that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson makes her first official day today as the newest member of the United States Supreme Court, where she will sit on the High Court for a lifetime appointment. Now, that's going to be fantastic. Now, as Jackson ascends as the first Black woman installed to the High Court, there is a sobering reality. She is the minority of judicial ideology among the 6-3 conservative majority Supreme Court. Now, that's going to be a big concern. Let's take a look at what some legal analysts have to say about the impact that Judge Jackson can make on this. Take a look at this one here. Check this one out. She is not going to be the savior of the court. So let's temper. This is important because, folks, we need to temper our expectations. However, she is going to write some very powerful dissents that will set the frame for the court going forward. Now, this is according to political strategist Chris Meltzler, who told the Griot. Kirk Schmoke, who's the president of the University of Baltimore and Baltimore City's former mayor of my hometown, said quote, based on the current makeup of the court, Justice Jackson, excuse me, is likely to be writing more dissenting opinions than majority opinions, but in time, her opinions will have a great impact on law and policy in America. And I'm so happy that Mayor Kurt Schmoke mentioned this, and so did Chris Meltzer, because a lot of times we tend to think that it's just about that vote, right? But those who are also crafting the dissenting opinions are also also have the opportunity to set a tone, create a new vision, right? And give us a context on the interpretation of the law. And that's just as powerful, folks. That's just as powerful as the decision on a particular issue. And there are a lot of issues that are going to be coming up for discussion for this coming session, folks. I can't, and here's the thing, when we look at abortion issues, reproductive rights, we're looking at gay marriages in this country, looking at interracial marriages, we're looking at voting rights. These are fundamental issues. These aren't just like, okay, Supreme Court, all right, we're not going to worry about it. These are big issues that Justice Jackson is going to be voting on. And so I'm posing a question to you. Make sure y'all jump in the conversation on YouTube, Facebook, and all of our streaming platforms, Black Star Network, of course, and be a part of the conversation as we have this, as we talk about what are your expectations for Justice Jackson? Do you foresee her making an impact? Do you foresee that her dissenting opinions is going to make a shift in law and policy? Share your thoughts with us, and we'll certainly post your comments as well. All right, let me go to my culture crew member today, Mr. Jules P., who is a hip hop artist and is an activist. And Jules, good to have you. Always glad to talk to you on Mondays, bro. How you feeling this Monday?
What's going on?
That's all you just say. What's going on? Okay, yes, sir.
All right, so I'll be okay. Happy homecoming week to Morgan State.
Happy homecoming.
Happy
That's
homecoming
right,
week
Morgan State.
Let's start with that.
They celebrate their homecoming this week. So big shout out to MSU.
I can talk my talk if you want me to. We can make this all about me, my hometown. Do that.
All right, we'll get to that later. Then we definitely get to that. But looking at Justice Jackson, Jules, and looking at the impact, looking at the great excitement that people had when she was appointed by President Biden. She got looking at all the madness that happened when she was getting through that approval process through the Senate, through Congress, all that madness that happened. And then for her to come out on the side. Now we're at the first day of her being on the job. What are your expectations for Justice Jackson?
So mine are very simple. I'm part of one of the few minority who understand how politics doesn't work and then how it works, if that makes sense. So here's what I'm going to say. It's kind of sort of the same expectations I had when Barack Obama took office. It's like, okay, yes, we have an African-American in a high position. In our minds as African-Americans, we want to say, oh yeah, now we're going to, fix this and do this and take care of this. And it's like, I also understand there's also a side of government, there's also a side of law that they still have to abide by. There's also things that they have to take care of that are also bigger than just, our issues as well. So my expectations for her is just to lead properly. I don't care what the issue is. Use good faith. Use your, use your mentality. Use your mind to, actually think about what the issues. Think about the topics. See what's being presented to you. See what laws need to be fixed. Need to be changed. That's it. My expectations are really simple. I'm not putting a burden on it. Like it's too many times we say we get a person in power that's African American. We want to put all of our struggles on that person to fix, and it's like that's a part of it. Yes, they got to bring some of that to their political office, but at the same sense, they also have to correct laws and things that are going on in our current state and time in this country. And I also want to see that being affected as well. And I feel like I should be able to trust in you to make the right decision, whether it affects me directly or not. Because I used to talk all the time. It's like, when Barack was president, it was a great win for us. But it's like, how much directly affected Jules? Like directly. I'm not saying what affected my community, what affected my state, what affected the East Coast. I'm saying how much directly affected Jules. I can't take that into consideration when the world is bigger than Jules. It's 6 million people in Maryland alone. I'm just one of the 6 million. So it's like, okay, What are you going to do to make sure that you're leading just, you're contrite with your arguments, you're contrite with what your opinions are, and you're standing forward and standing your ground? And that's my expectation. It's just that simple. Lead in good faith. That's it. I'm not putting any pressures on. I'm not saying, oh, you got to fix this or you have to eradicate that. Like, that's not my call. My call is to make sure that you're leading in contrite and that I trust in your voice. So when an issue does come up that directly affects our community or affects our culture, I already know based off your track record that you're leading with the right decisions and you're moving forward to make the best decisions on what you're ruling on.
Yeah, I like it. I like it, Jules. I like it, bro. I think that's solid, and I think that's a good place for us to be. Folks, join us in the conversation right now. Post your comments on YouTube and Facebook as we're asking the question, what are some of your expectations? Do you feel the same way that Jules feels? Like, you know what? I just want you to do a good job, use the best judgment. We're not going to put too much on you. And we will see how things go from, over these next few months. Now, here's the thing. I think that we need to take, and this is just a little bit of the footage from I think it's from Friday, if I'm not mistaken. And Keenan just let me know. Keenan and Joe let me know if that's the footage from Friday. But when we look at this, okay, this is from Friday. Thank you. So when we look at, and this is her with Judge Roberts, who leads the court. And as you know, if you know about the history, Judge Roberts is a conservative judge, but he does support some things outside of the conservative space. He did. Some people say he's not as conservative as say the other justices on the court. So, but I think it's just because he kind of leads the court, Jules, that he has to take both sides into consideration, right? And so I think what we're seeing is it's going to be interesting, very, very interesting, because of Justice Jackson's experience working under Stephen Breyer, who's the former justice who retired. Because of her experience working with him, the tutelage and the mentorship, because of her personal experience, I mean, she's coming in, bringing a lot to the table. And I also know that, her experience and even in the social justice space and the conversations about everything from CRT, critical race theory to others, like she's not totally in a bubble. Right. And so I think to your point, even though she's there, we have to allow her to do her job and see if she can do the job well, because it's going to be a shift. Now, here's what I think might happen, and this might be another thing, interesting thing for us to keep in mind. I think a lot more people are going to pay attention to those dissenting opinions. Normally, when the Supreme Court makes a decision, you always, for every decision that's made by the Supreme Court justice, a dissenting opinion is issued. But I think a lot more people are going to wonder, okay, what does Justice Jackson, where does she stand? So I think that this is going to encourage people to pay a little bit more attention to the dissenting opinion, because you have a new voice, a fresher voice, a new face, a Black woman. I think people are going to start to read those opinions. And I'm going back to what former Baltimore Mayor Kirk Schmoke said. That is going to shape people's context. It may not shape people's context in that particular case at that time, but for the American people, we might see more people wanting to get more information and to learn the other side. What's your take on that, Jules? You think more people will be involved, will want to read her dissenting opinion and not just listen to the decisions?
So that's another part of my point that I 100% agree with. So it's like, now that we have someone that's of our ilk, of our color, of our culture, now that allows me to pay, because I didn't pay. I'm going to be 100% honest, and then whether this takes away my activist title or whatever, I didn't really pay attention to anything that the previous Supreme Court justice did, because I wasn't in tune. But that's the same way with presidents. I wasn't really in tune with Bush and Clinton and the previous presidents until Barack came. Then once he came, then I started to sit down and listen more. So it's like, okay, I don't know what I don't know. So I can't sit there and make a decision based off previous presidents or previous Supreme Court justices just because I'm paying attention to her. Now that I sit down and I'm like, okay, now this lets me focus and hone in on who the position of power is. They look like me. They talk like me. They walk like me. Okay, this is something okay. This now expands my mind because yes, I'm a hip hop activist. Yes, I work full time, but now this gives me another side of the plate to look at. Of okay, well, what I don't know, let me research this. Let me find out more information about it. So now this allows me to pay more attention. So now I'm more in tune, and I tell people all the time, my go-to is Twitter because I say, you know, when you look at things on Twitter, when it involves news, U.S. news, world news, it's up to date at the moment. So now I'm paying more attention to those tabs in the middle instead of looking at my timeline. I'm saying what's going on. I'm saying what's being decided. I'm saying what's being brought in, what's going to be changing for the future, what's the next 5 years, the next 10 years looks like. That's what I'm paying attention to because I have somebody of my ilk now representing me in office. Yes, they're not handling my problems or what I have going on personally, but that's somebody I can tell my child, hey, when you grow up, you can be Supreme Court Justice. When you grow up, you can be a president because now I see my color represented instead of just athletes and entertainers.
There it is. Let's get to some of our online culture crew members, Jules. And let me just throw this out there. I just read you talk about you getting your news and information from Twitter. I just read this weekend, Google put out some data saying that 40% of young people get their news. 40% get their news from TikTok.
I don't even,
The same platform where they have like funny segments and dance videos. Y'all get the news from. Okay. 40%. That's from Google. So I was like, what? That's crazy. All right, let's go to our online culture crew. Folks, post your comments and let's jump into and share what you want to say as we have this conversation about Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, your expectations, and some of the big things that we need to look at for this upcoming session. Will NC 100, you kick this off this afternoon. You say, look, I don't think right now her effect is going to even be noticed because the court swayed too much to one side. Just look at the latest press release from our so-called non-political Supreme Court. Y'all know how, let me just share with you. For those who don't know and those who just checking us out, look, I don't think that the court should have a political bent on it. I don't think you should have conservatives, Democrats, or Republicans, Democrat, conservative, liberal. I think that takes away from the court being unbiased. Mm-hmm. Because if you see it, if you know certain people are Democrat or Republican or conservative or liberal, then you kind of already know that they're going to either choose party lines or what's in the best interest or party interest, right? Mm-hmm. So it takes away from that, from the court being a quote unquote a neutral space where all sides will be considered. And we saw that with the reversal of Roe v. Wade 100 days ago. When the court gets politicized, then those decisions get politicized as well. So we will see. I'm right there with you, Will. Thank you so much for checking in. Truth is power. My guy, you said Sonia Sotomayor, the other minority on the court, and she's the Latino system on the court, she said Truth is power said has come back up now, and they are going to write some powerful dissents. Right. I think I see that too, Truth is power. I think to that point, that's why I say I think a lot more of us are going to be interested in the dissenting opinion about these things than just the decision themselves. So it's going to be very interesting. Corinna, good to hear from you, sis. I hope you had a great weekend. You said Judge Roberts can put on the guise of being supportive because of the 6-3 majority. Do not be fooled, because he may occasionally, yet rarely, dissent. Thanks. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm saying that, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, Corinna, because at the end of the day, he is still a part of the larger picture of conservatism and being a part of the Republican Party. And so, yeah, I'm not expecting any different. Sandy, you said, I listened to some of the Supreme Court earlier. She asked some interesting questions. Yep, I'm right there with you. And Truth is power, you came back and said, the only thing I'm looking for from my sister, please do not recuse yourself. None of the other justices recuse themselves on controversial topics. Neither should you. Affirmative action is coming up. That's one of the big conversations. And Truth is power, you're absolutely right. I think that's one of the many big conversations that we can expect in this session, Jules. We're talking about affirmative action. We're talking about voting rights. They're going to be talking about the issue of interracial marriages and same-sex marriages. Don't recuse yourself. You cannot recuse. Please don't recuse yourself. With this session being the way it is, we just came out of this. I mean, people are still reeling, Jules, from the decision that was made around Roe v. Wade. Mm-hmm. Do you foresee this court going into a more progressive space now when we're talking about, I mean, it seems like these topics, these issues are going to be a major concern for the country, not just for Black folk, but for the whole country. Same-sex marriages, interracial marriages, affirmative action, voting. These are going to be some big topics. And I mean, and a lot of these decisions were made 30, 40, 50 years ago.
That's the problem. That's exactly the problem. And that's
we might be looking at a situation, Jules, where the country might be going in a backwards direction with this court session.
Right. Yeah. I think that, like, here's my stance on it. And again, to all our viewers, understand I'm not in the space of where I'm going to give you the excellent political knowledge. I'm just from a regular general sense of what I see, what I observe, and what I've been through. So, and that's always what I speak on. So I speak from honesty. I've never been in the Supreme Court. I've never been in the court system. I don't know that side of it, but I'm speaking on what I know, what I researched, and what I've experienced. So literally, if you're thinking about everything that's going on in the country, when you're bringing up same-sex marriage, when you're bringing up affirmative action, when you're bringing up Roe versus Wade, well, the problem I have with some of these topics are they were ruled on without any notice, without any care, without any explanation. That has nothing to do with what knowledge that we possess as the Americans or as the culture of getting that information received to us. A lot of the stuff was made without our decision or our opinions. It wasn't a vote taken from us. It was decided above us. So that's why I do agree with the comment saying, when you make a decision for Supreme Court Justice Jackson, when she makes a decision, stand on your ground. Like if you say it, you say it. Don't let nobody tell you nothing or how to feel about it, or to try to recuse. Stand your ground. How you feel is how you feel, because again, that's the issue. A lot of times people don't put faces to decisions they make. They say it was a court decision, or was it this decision, or was it this party decision, or was it conservative? No, I'd rather have the face say, this is what I decided on, and this is what it's going to be. And then after my lifetime sentence is over, if somebody wants to come in and change that afterwards, that's fine. But this is my face associated with this issue or this matter, and I'm going to put my face beside it and stand strong and firmly on what I say and what I rule on. So when the time comes that this is brought up again, hey, we know that okay, let's continue this. Boom. That was from Supreme Court Jackson. We know who it came from, instead of just sitting here wondering, okay, where are these laws coming from? Where are these decisions coming from? Why are we not being notified? How are you affecting the lives of women and you're not even a woman? Just there's different things that we've been going through literally in the past 6 months to a year. It's okay, now let's put the face, let's put the name behind. Okay, if I'm rocking with you, yes, I'm gonna hold you to a certain standard because you're of my ilk, but at the same sense, I'm not gonna put an expectation or a burden on you because I want you to stand firm. Even though I don't agree, I'm gonna stand firm. You know why? Because I don't know the information and I'm not on the inside. So I can't tell you, oh, you did that wrong. Oh, I don't like the way you did that. I said, oh, okay, I might not agree, but I'm rocking. It is what it is. You made a decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you know what? We're gonna have to see how this whole situation plays out, of course. As this is her first day, we're going to get a better sense. I do know that a lot more Black folks, especially Black women, are feeling empowered to learn more about the Supreme Court. We might be seeing a new generation. Some people said that when she was appointed, she's going to inspire a new generation of young Black girls, little Black girls, to get in the law. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. Now it's a time. Here's the thing: it's now time for us to not look at just this appointment as a symbolic gesture. It's a time for look at it as another step towards some level of progress. Hopefully, it leads to another step of liberation, another step of raising the consciousness of not just Black folks, but this whole country. And it takes us another step towards looking at the Constitution, looking at laws that govern our country from a different perspective, and how those laws can be interpreted to help all of us, to benefit all of us. Because right now, the way the laws are being used, they're being weaponized against us. And we're looking at major decisions being made over these next few months, and that will possibly just uproot the lives of so many people. And so I hope that we see something different coming from the Supreme Court. Even in the dissent, I hope that people will really, really pay attention. Go ahead. You got the final word, bro.
And the point that you said is my point 100,000 times over. I'm not that involved in politics. I'm not that divested in it. I do not care that much for politics. I'm going to say that a million times. But what I do understand is the power and impact. So when I think of Supreme Court, I think of Thurgood Marshall. Now I'm thinking of Ketanji Brown Jackson. So now I look at that as, okay, now I have little black and brown boys and girls that can now say, okay, there's other things in life I can achieve and attain to be. I can now research this. Even if it's 10 people, that's 10 more than yesterday that didn't know anything about her being in office or serving as Supreme Court justice. And that's the point. Impact is the biggest thing to me, just from my side of this, because again, I'm not politically tied to anything. I don't care. But when it comes to the impact, now it makes me care, because now I say, okay, I have somebody that's representative of my color, my ilk, my generation, that's doing something, making powerful change. Now I can say, okay, now these are other options I can learn, pass down to the next generation or the students I mentor. And that's all I care about.
Absolutely. I feel you there, bro. All right, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about something else outside of law. Let's talk about economics, as we know that Americans are struggling right now, according to new data and research that's showing that Americans are struggling right now under the weight of inflation. Look, folks, I've gone to the store just these past couple of days. A box of Capri Suns went from $2.99 to $5.49. In days. Gas has gone up tremendously. And so we're going to break it down of where we stand on this issue of inflation and how are you holding up? Prices are going up, energy has gone up, rent has gone up. How are you doing? We'll have that conversation. So stay with us. That discussion is coming up next, right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Let's have a conversation now as we talk about the issue of economics in this country. Now, inflation is kicking our ass right now, folks. I'm telling you. I am telling you. And it is no wonder that according to some of the latest research, Black families in particular are concerned about three things. Y'all can figure it out for me. Three things: food, shelter, and gas. That's it, folks. And according to some of the latest studies, is showing that a lot of families, Black families, white families, Latino families, are definitely feeling the burden of inflation. Take a look at some of the latest numbers around this situation. Inflation now causing hardship for majority in the U.S. That's why, let me just share this with y'all very quickly. That is why when we have this conversation about capitalism, when we have these conversations about, the cost of and prices, hell, when we even talk about celebrity culture and the madness of how much money that's just being spent in a very wasteful way, then we got to look at the situation of inflation. Take a look at some of the numbers here and just check this out, folks. And I got this from the New York Times, where it says a majority of Americans, 56% now say price increases are causing financial hardship for their households, up from 49% in January and 45% in November. Now, the latest readings includes 12% who describes the hardship as severe and 44% as moderate. Now, although more Americans now than last fall say they are experiencing hardship, the percentage who are suffering severe hardship has held relatively steady at around 10%. Lower income Americans are more likely than others to be experiencing severe hardship. 28% of those whose annual household income is less than $48,000 say prices are causing severe hardship for their families. That compares with 12% of middle income Americans and 4% of upper income Americans. Let me just, y'all hear that? Y'all really taking this all in? So I wanted to just have a brief discussion about this, and let's bring Culture Crew member Jules P., hip hop artist and advocate, into this conversation. Man, I mean, inflation is so real right now, Jules. And when you look at it, some more numbers also show that those who are making over $100,000 or more, they are also experiencing some level of hardship. Not quite as those who are making $48,000, or those families who are bringing in $48,000. But we're seeing that more and more people are being affected by our financial situation. What do you make of it, bro?
So I have a running joke. Me and my lady had this running joke, and I also say this joke with my staff. I say outside costs $500. Every time you go outside, it costs $500. Doesn't matter what you're planning on doing.
Outside costs $500.
Once you leave your doorstep, it costs $500.
Right, right.
Like, it's a joke. I said, take into consideration. I said, getting gas. Let's just say that's about 60 to 70. Getting food, groceries for the week or for the 2 weeks you're covering, $150 to $200. You got to go to a restaurant.
Is that wait, $150, $200 per week?
I said per 2 weeks. I say like per 2 week time.
Oh wow!
Yeah, depending on your living situation. Like, I mean,
Yeah, that's true. True. We kicking out at least $200, $300 a week.
I don't have little ones in my house, so we're it's just me and her, and we work opposite shifts. So it's like, okay, I'm at nighttime, she work at daytime, so it's like we don't need that much right now.
Right.
But I mean, again, for a family that has more than us, yeah, so that can be 200 to 300 to 400. So again, right there, you're already at 460. You got to have a date night every now and then. You have to.
What's that, Jules?
A date night. Oh, going out. Yeah. If you can afford it, you got to have a date night. You got to have a date night.
What?
So that's at least.
Hey, that date night better be a pizza, Netflix, and chill, bro. What are you talking about?
Even with a pizza, the cost of the pizza now and the delivery added to it, that's $25 to $30. I mean, so now we already reached our 500 cap, and I just did a pizza, some groceries, and some gas. I ain't bought no clothes. I ain't bought no new toothpaste. I ain't went to Target. Like it's
No, Target, you gotta the Target one is already included. The Target one gotta be included, bro.
That's what I'm saying.
That's gotta be included.
It's literally like that's just the breakdown of how it is right now. Like a lot of times I frequent out a lot. Like I'm a very social out person. So I can tell people the difference in how it was back then versus now. You're definitely getting hit with a lot of COVID recovery taxes on your bills, whether you're going to hotels, whether you're going to theme parks, whether you're going to restaurants. You're already going to be taxed extra based off of what you're doing. Flights as well, because I fly too. So anything that you're doing extra, you're going to be taxed the extra because now everybody's going to call it a COVID relief fund based on that company trying to recover from all they lost in those 2 years of the pandemic. So that's also going to be a part of the inflation that's not even accounted for just everyday life. That's just simple math of, oh, this is how much money we lost over a 2 year time frame. Yeah, we might have got a government grant or government loan to bail us out or help our companies stay afloat, but at the same sense we still have to charge our extra. So instead of it being $29.99, we have to charge you an extra 18% just to keep that recovery so we can put the money back into our box and pay off that loan that we got from the government to stay afloat for these 2 years. So there's just simple minor things to think about. Outside costs a lot. Inside costs a lot because then people can sit there all day and order DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats. I'm not promoting these people because I ain't getting no checks. I'm just saying names. But these are things that, are taken into consideration of the regular life. That's why when you pose that question, how are you doing, is the great question, because you don't want to base your life off anybody else's in this current situation. How are you holding up? How are you surviving? We had this conversation last week, living within your means. We know for sure if you're living check to check, and that's the most of our community. So that's nothing to be saddened about because I did it for a very long time. It happens. But make sure in your living to check, you're at least taking care of your needs. Those wants, you're just going to have to table them. Them pair of shoes that you want to look at, you just got to table that for a second. That bag you're looking at, you got to table it because right now you're living in a space of need because of the cost of everything is so high. I mean, milk alone, I drink lactate milk. My lactate milk by the gallon now was done hit $7 when it was $4 about 3-4 years ago. So it's just like, that's just shows you right there. If something minor items like that, well, then if you're getting a grocery cart and you're getting 25 other items, and each of those 25 other items are increasing by $2 or $3, it's not that hard to do math. That's $200 extra you're paying based on something that you got years ago.
Hey, look, bro. When the dollar store makes a grand announcement saying that everything in their store won't be $1 anymore.
Right.
I knew it was going all downhill, Jules. I just knew. I was like, this country is done. The dollar store is no longer a dollar store.
Right.
The dollar store has come the $5 store, right? Now you're spending $1.25 at the register per item. But my thing is, and this is something that's being looked at in terms of some of the research and the data, and the question is being asked, well, how are Americans dealing with this level of inflation? And we're finding out that most people are cutting back on, like I said, date night, especially. They're cutting back on vacations and trips, making those big trips, right? I remember just before COVID, you remember everybody seemed to be traveling. Everybody seemed to be going to Turks and Caicos and going down to Mexico or going here or going there. A lot of traveling is cut down. Yep. People are looking in their budget and saying, okay, can we skim on something else in terms of living within our means? I think, and this might be the silver lining that comes out of this whole situation, because we are a country that love excess, right? We love spending money when we really don't need to spend. We love materialism, right? We love putting money out there all the time. And I don't know, I'm not in these spaces like going to a club and blowing off hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars in some cases, right? I don't find that to be a good time to me, bro. Like, I don't want to go no place and come home broke and be like, boy, I had a great time. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. So even in that part of the culture, we got to change that. You know what I'm saying? And there are a number of things, like I mentioned, you know, cutting back that people are doing. But here's something I found to be even more fascinating about this. When you look at the article from New York Times and in other places, they said that Americans' financial plans are being thrown out the window because it's hard to have a plan when you have so many uncertain variables, so many uncertain factors. You can't even come up with a plan. Here's case in point. I live around the corner from a gas station. When I first moved in, when we first got into the area, the gas was $5.09. Over a couple of weeks, the gas has gone up to $1 more over a matter of weeks. There wasn't no memo. There was no any type of communication, no email sent. It went from $5.09 to $5.45. Next thing you know, it was $5.65. And I came out the house 2 days ago. That joined at $6.05. Right. That was a couple of days ago. Come back this morning, drove past it this morning. Boom, it's like $6.19. Like, damn. And this is only a matter of days, right? A matter of days. So, you know, I think this thing is going to force a lot of us to reevaluate our values and our relationship with money in a very, very big way, bro.
But you know what? It's also key. And so here's another discussion. I like to have these discussions. Like, I have a lot of these type of conversations in the house. So like, we're tuning in now on The Culture Live on Monday. You know, my favorite day of the week to be on here is Monday. But I have the culture conversations in my household daily because I have a woman of the culture. So we just talk about these things daily. So here's one of the things that we used to talk about all the time. Since we're talking about inflation, since we're talking about how we're living, financial literacy is not taught to us how it should be. A lot of times when I can share from my personal experience, when I was in high school, economics was only a half a semester. It wasn't a whole year. So you did a half a semester of economics, and it basically taught you the basic values of economics, basic definitions, basic key terms. But I had such a great teacher, shout out Mr. Mace, that he showed us real life money, how the world works. And this is back then in 2008, because I'm lying, 2004, because I graduated 2006. I took economics 10th grade or 11th grade. So 2004, 2005. He made you do real life examples. Like, he didn't just teach you from the book. He showed you how the world works. He showed you recessions, if you're making this amount of money and then your rent goes up, what to do. That was key. I only had that class for a half a semester, but to this day, I still remember that because I say a lot of my friends that didn't have his class or didn't take classes of economic value, we don't have that same financial literacy. And when we don't have that financial literacy, people are like, well, you get it from the home. Well, how you get it from the home if your parents in debt? The thing I always say is, if we didn't come from money, I wasn't spoon-fed. Both my parents worked their whole entire lives. They worked my whole entire childhood. I didn't get a spoon-fed lifestyle. I saw my parents go to work two jobs at a time to provide just for the house and also provide for me. So it's like, at the same sense, it's like, okay, if that can't be taught from the house, I think it's more onus on education systems to provide that knowledge, especially around high school, because around high school is when I got my first job. So when I get my first job, I need to know how to budget money instead of, oh, I got this paycheck now, I'm going to go buy these Jordans, or I'm going to go buy this cell phone, I'm going to go buy this PlayStation, because I'm young. So I'm thinking that instead of thinking bigger and say, put some money aside, because when you get to college, you got to pay for books. Now, online now, but it's like these things that weren't taught to us back then. None of that was taught to us. So you had to either find out the information on your own, or you had to have a parent like mine, which the information I passed down to my girl's daughter is, hey, this is the financial mess ups that I made. These are the decisions. I'm teaching this because I don't want you to make those same mistakes. I'm going to show you what to do in these situations when you get to a low point. When you get some money, put this money to the side. You can have something to spend and have fun with, but cut some of that out and put it to the side because you never know what's going to come up. And I said the same way you're doing that now with gift money is the same way you're going to do it when you get older and you have a job. Everything that you get, your rent shouldn't be the same amount as your check. You need to have some money aside so you're able to live and breathe. Nobody wants to go home and go to work and that's it. You can't do nothing else. It happens to all of us. That's why we got to break those trends and break that chain of terrible financial decisions and mistakes that we made and our parents made so our children in the future don't have to make those same decisions. That's why I say literacy is the bigger conversation, especially when it comes to inflation.
Hey, brother, Jules, I'm with you. I am with you. And I think this is the perfect opportunity for us to have some of those conversations, even the cultural conversations. I saw like Cardi B made a post of, she went on a live and she was talking about inflation a few days ago, right? But I'm like, but Cardi, though, you the same sister, though, Cardi, that be talking about getting an $80,000 handbag or something. So you gotta balance the situation out. And that's why I even push back on the whole celebrity culture. Because some of us are still trying to live like we celebrities during an inflation at a time when, you're not bringing in the money. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It just don't work that way. Unless you are you have the finances for that allows you to have that quote unquote disposable income where you can go out and buy a little extra stuff. You can take those trips. But we got to be cognizant now, and especially now, this is October. We're about to go into holiday season, right? Mm-hmm. And people, if inflation continues as the analysts and the experts are saying from the federal government, they're all over the place, they're saying that this thing is going to keep happening. We might see this, spill over until the rest of the year. For us as Black folks and for us just living in this country, we got to be knowledgeable and considerate that everyone's economic situation, financial situation is not at the top of the game, right? Why am I saying that? Because, as we go into the holiday season, I see this a lot, man. People like to spend extra money, spend exorbitantly, and then promote it.
Bro,
Talk about it.
Right? You know
what I'm saying? And look, I get it. You happy you got your children gifts. I'm happy that you can get a nice spread. But trust and believe. And Jules, I want to have this conversation. Another part of this, it's like the same conversation that people are having about hip hop artists wearing big jewels out in the streets and all of those stuff. Like, we really got to understand, folks, that people are hungry. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, human nature will compel you to do some harm to people just because they're hungry. And I'm saying that because as Black folks, we sometimes, I think we kind of miss the mark, bro, culturally, when we don't understand it or try to be considerate that the community ain't good financially. So we can't act like, oh man, yeah, I'm eating. Look what I got. Look what I'm buying. Look what I do. Look at me. And then you're not understanding that, man, people are really suffering. Families are suffering. You know what I mean? Like, you got folks all in cities across this country, Black families who are trying to figure out day in and day out how they're going to eat. The research is showing. This New York Times article mentioned people are literally like 2 paychecks away. You know what I mean? From some level of financial ruin. Savings is going out the window because rising prices, because what we're bringing in is not keeping pace of what's going out. So when you got all of these dynamics, we just got to be more cognizant culturally that we're not adding fuel to the fire with our own madness, our own ignorance, because we're in a space now where even with this inflation, I think it's going to be a huge breakthrough for this country, Jules. And I might be wrong on this, but I think it's going to be a huge breakthrough for this country to look at the system of money, capitalism, and to look at how we deal with money, how we set prices. I think it's going to force businesses to look at how prices are set on products and services. I think this could be an opportunity for us to get into a space of reimagining and redefining what financial freedom looks like. because people are just struggling. When you got majority of Americans who are struggling in the country, then you got to ask yourself, well, is the current system, financial system that we are all governed by and experience, is it really working to our benefit? All right, let me just take a couple of quick comments from our online culture crew, because folks are checking in. Turner family, you said inflation only happens when too many people the system deems should not have money or access to money. Well, it's a part of that. It's a part of that. But I think that inflation, when you have goods and services, rather goods like raw products like gas and oil, I mean, when certain things happen, whether you're talking about what's going on in Russia and Ukraine and the impact of gas and producing and oil, the impact of oil in that part of the country, how it impacts what's happening on this side. Like when you start looking at it, because America, we're one of these countries, we get oil from one group, we get China to produce other things, we get this country from other things. And I know that one of the big things that Trump often, talked about is keeping everything centralized in America. And it may not be the worst idea, because now we're kind of open to the economic instabilities of other markets in other parts of the world. And as a result of that, we gotta figure, the country, i.e. the citizens of the country, us, we have to bear the brunt of economic instability around the world. You know what I mean? And if the government is trying to do its part, the Fed raised the interest rate by 0.75%, and other agencies are trying to figure out the best ways that Americans can handle money. Let me tell y'all the best way that Americans can handle money. Stop telling everybody go ahead and get money. Start creating a different conversation, a different narrative of how we spend money, how we invest money, how we relate to money, because money don't grow on trees no more. And I don't know if the government just need a commercial to just say that money don't grow on trees. America is not in the same financial place that it was 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, where we can just splurge and do all of the craziness that we used to do. We're not there. We're not there. Businesses don't have a social responsibility. As long as they're getting their profits margins met, then we're in a different place. I mean, we got to think about all of that. We got to really think about all of that. I'm going to let you get the final word on this, Jules. I want to get a couple of more folks in. Sophia, you checked in. You said, thanks for highlighting that, Jules P., because most people have not a clue where inflation comes from. My God, our education system sucks. There you go, Jules. There you go, teaching and training. Danae, you checked in. This is what's meant to save for a rainy day. Furthermore, it never stops raining. Facts. Come on, Janae. Because ain't nobody going to save us. Oh, my gosh. Wow. Janine, you said, my grandparents always told us, if you make a nickel, save a penny. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah, that's a big one. That is huge. Corinna, you checked back in. You said also it is so important to save for your retirement, meaning your employer is not the only one contributing, but you are too. SSI will not be enough, and GOP is threatening to take those crumbs away.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So so look at that. You even have to figure out, when you work at a job, you even have to figure out how to strategize to get a 401k with your job. Some, of course, states offer 401ks that you can, invest into, but you got to have these conversations. And back to your point, Jules, if you don't know these things, if this stuff is not brought to your attention when you are young, and you got to learn these things through trial and error, you're not gonna move it accordingly based upon this inflation, because we don't know what other financial situation is coming around the corner. And I know what the president often say, or what Congress people often say, that no, we're in a good place. We're in a good place. Y'all ain't paying. Y'all, we not in the same tax bracket, bro.
All right.
That's what it is. We're not in the same tax bracket.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? If you're a congressman and you're making millions of dollars because of your salary and other interests and other things that you got your hands involved in, We're not in the same tax bracket.
Right.
You getting PPP loans for stuff, and you squawking about 10,000, 20,000 for the American people. Like it's just not the same. We're not in the same tax bracket. Right. So I mean, this thing is going to cause. I think this thing may cause a huge shift in a lot of ways, Jules. A lot of ways. You got the final word, bro. What's your take?
I got the final word. Okay, I'm gonna treat this like TV. Is this camera on me? I gotta talk to the people real quick.
Go ahead.
So I might ruffle some feathers, but I'm going to say it. For this holiday season, for this Christmas, for the people that haven't done it yet, it ain't about social media with your children buying 1 million goddamn presents to post them and show. What you should do is get them a CD. I'm not talking about a CD play. I'm talking about a CD for banking terms, or certificate of deposit for those who don't know what a CD is, or get them an IRA. So they can already start having that money for later on in life. For the ones that are struggling. I'm not talking about the ones that have the money that can do that. Okay, fine. You got the bread. You get your child 20 million presents. That's fine. But for the ones that are struggling, that's just using social media as the competition, whereas the bar to, oh, this is what this person did, so I got to outdo them for my children. No, that's not what this is. You probably get your child gifts all throughout the year. They know you're a great parent. Continue being that great parent, but set them up for success in the future financially. Don't worry about having 29 million presents under a Christmas tree, knowing daggone what a child can't even spell. But that's a whole nother story for another day. All right, Farajii, because I'm about to go into a deeper conversation.
There it is. There it is. And you know what? We're gonna have more conversations about financial literacy. Of course, folks, check in with Deborah Owens on A Wealthy Life, A Balanced Life, and a wealthy, getting wealthy, and then of course Dr. Jackie talking about a balanced life. We gotta have some different conversations about money, and especially coming into the holiday season. We really need to make sure that our culture is in a space where we can recognize that, look, man, we're in a different place than we were 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And one of the big challenges, and I think that this is also part about human nature, one of the big challenges that faces all of us is that we see things for how we want them to be versus how they really are. I'm going to say that to y'all one more time. The biggest challenge when we're dealing with major crisis, we see things for how we want them to be versus how they really are. And as a result of that, we don't move accordingly. So we got to figure out better ways to spend, better ways to invest, better ways to save. So that way, when we're talking about that future, that rainy day, when we're talking about getting prepared for what may be coming down the pipe, then that we will be fully prepared. All right, folks, look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's have a conversation about women's rights, reproductive rights, and so much more. I want to talk about what happened on Friday around a campaign called A Day Without Us, where the call was made that what would happen if Black women didn't take to the forefront and didn't lead the charge on making sure that women are seen and heard. We'll talk about what happened on that day and a whole lot more in the next hour. So stay with us. You tune into The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome to the second hour of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in. And folks, I would highly encourage you to just join us in this great revolution we call Black Star Network. We are inviting you to be a part of the Black Star Network, to be a stakeholder of the Black Star Network. So you saw the commercial for Brother Roland just did, and I'm inviting you to join us. Please make sure that you support us at Black Star Network at blackstarnetwork.com. Black Star Network is the premier social digital space for Black content, for Black information, and we're working to becoming a 24-hour streaming service where you get this type of conversation all throughout the day, throughout the evening, throughout the mid-morning, the early morning hours, but we need your support to get to that next level. So support us right now at blackstarnetwork.com. And then also make sure y'all check me out on my social media at Farajii on Twitter, The Real Farajii on IG, and Facebook. You can find me there, Farajii Muhammad. Let's continue to have those conversations. All right, folks, wanted to switch gears to talk about something that has been trending, which is what is the state of the woman here in this country. This past Friday, a group of organizations that are dedicated to the issue of abortion and reproductive rights and other issues that affect women all over this country decided to make moves to call for a day without us. Take a look at this, folks, because this is something that was highlighted in the root. Can you imagine a day without the work of Black women? No, I cannot. The Day Without Us campaign wants us to try. I don't want to try. I do not want to try imagining a day without my sisters. And so we wanted to talk a little bit more about this campaign because it's so important that we look at these things, not just from a political space, but really understand the value and the importance of the woman's work, the woman's speech, and the woman's presence as relates to the issue. So we're joined by Dr. Avis. Dr. Avis, who you've seen, guys, on Roland Martin Unfiltered. This sister is a phenomenal sister, and she's been talking about a number of issues. She's one of our political analysts here on Black Star Network. She is an author. She is a professor. So she's a scholar in a lot of different spaces. We got Dr. Avis joining us today. Let's see. Dr. Avis, how are you this afternoon?
I am great. How are you? Great to be on your show.
Thank you so much for taking time out your busy schedule to be with us, Doc. We truly appreciate it. Absolutely. Now, Dr. Avis, I'm going to go back to this question that the root posed, and I think that, which is why we wanted to have you on here, because it was talking about this idea, this campaign of a day without us, really looking at abortion rights, reproductive rights of women, and women saying enough is enough. First and foremost, what do you make of where we are with women, with the woman, the state of the woman here in America, particularly Black women?
Yeah.
It seems like there are so many different things happening with sisters today. And as a man, I always try to just make sure that I'm on the right side of history, Doc.
We appreciate that.
So that's why I'm always open up the space to hearing from dynamic sisters like yourself and others. But what do you see as being the state of the woman in this country, particularly for Black women?
We're in a very precarious space right now. I see us going backwards. This is a moment in which, for centuries, we fought every step of the way as women, and particularly as Black women, to get to where we are in this very race, gendered, very discriminatory society that we know we have to navigate each and every day. And the sad situation is, despite all that work, despite all the bloodshed, despite all the blood, sweat, and tears that have been put into getting us where we are today, what we are finding is that we're going backwards. We have a Supreme Court that has just run renegade over our rights. Yes, they've dismantled Roe, but if you believe that that's where they're going to stop, let me just say, you need to have another thing coming. That's just the beginning, I believe, of them trampling over our rights as a people, in terms of Black people, and specifically as women as well. And so this is a moment in which we have to fight. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. We have to fight in order to not only protect what rights remain, but also to get back what's been lost.
I'm right there with you. We bringing back Jules P, hip hop artist and advocate, and that's part of this conversation. And Doc, I mean, that is not a good place for us to be, considering that there have been a number of efforts by Black women organizations. Of course, we talk about Black Lives Matter, which is ran and led by Black women. Mm-hmm. So why aren't we seeing the type of improvements, even though we're seeing a lot more efforts at this point? We cannot overstate the damage that the Trump administration had on this nation as a whole, but also specifically on our rights and our safety, quite frankly, in this country, as Black people and Black women. And so what we're fighting against right now are the trickle-down effects of his very damaging actions, both in terms of his judicial appointments, but also in terms of the tone and tenor of the country that he ushered in, where white racist violence has not only been, well, I would say it's been embraced, it's been encouraged, it's definitely grown. I mean, if you just look at the statistics, we have a record number of hate groups that came into being under his administration. And we see that he is openly coddling these very violent organizations that oftentimes target us. When you look specifically at what's the trickle-down effects of eliminating Roe would be, that specifically, in my mind, targets Black women, given that we are 4 times more likely to die in pregnancy and childbirth than our white female counterparts. And so these are literally life and death issues. And as we are looking towards the midterm elections, I think the thing that we have to be very cognizant of is this is a key way in which we have to fight back in order to begin that long journey of repairing the damage that's been done. And what role do you see, Dr. Avis, the community playing in that process? Because I still think that we're still kind of like very passive, yes. In our support. And, even for men, I think that, I know that there are a number of brothers in the community who are like, yeah, I support, women's rights, reproductive rights, equal pay, all of those things. But I still feel like we're still the minority, right? You know what I mean? That there hasn't been a full blown out effort by the community. And I've even seen some women pushing back on certain things, and surprisingly. So I'm like, wait a minute, as a community, we need to have some real conversations before, we can talk about policy, before we can talk about, law. The fact is that in our culture, we haven't reconciled on where we stand to help other women get further ahead. Are you seeing that same dynamic?
I definitely am. It's really, honestly, it's sad for me to see the amount of fracture between, in many instances, I would say just Black men and Black women in our community right now. It is disturbing, to say the least, to see a lot of hate-filled conversations that I have seen openly on social media. It is tragic. It is sad. And I want people to really think about this. Who does it benefit to have us fight each other like this? Think about that for a minute. Who does it benefit to have us hating each other in the way that I am seeing it, with the language that we are throwing at each other, both men and women, specifically in the Black community? What is going on? Why do you think that has happened? I'm not, ancient, but I'm old enough to know, to remember a moment when there wasn't this vocal, this loud and overwhelming animosity between us in these public spaces like this.
Yes.
And so it makes me wonder if there has been some specific targeting of messaging to the Black community, specifically to disunite us in this way. Because when we are not together, when we are not unified, when we are fighting each other, that leaves the door wide open for other people to come in and do whatever they want to us, and we will not even notice that it's going on.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And I would have to agree, Doc, that I would say within the past 10 years, the level of vitriol that we see communicated from men to women and women to men is it gets so bad. And I remember having conversations about men and women, relationships, and even, running a household. It's getting down to this issue of pointing blame.
Yes.
And I'm like, where do we, and it's hard to even on a space like this, it's like, I don't even want to have those conversations without having an expert voice, just simply because we got into our heads so many crazy thoughts about each other that it's like we need somebody to buffer or to help to debunk some of the mythology that we see that we have about each other. And I'm like, this is where did you get this from? And when we're looking at women, the value of women, this is going back to this campaign of A Day Without Us. Mm-hmm. And Keena, I want you to pop up on the screen, bro, just a little bit about what was reported in the Root as it relates to this day. Take a look at this, folks. When you're talking about A Day Without Us, this is an event that was, this happened again last Friday. Black women from several reproductive and racial justice organizations are challenging Americans to put down their work and come together for a collective day of action that they call the Day Without Us. An event which is being organized by advocates at the Frontline, Netroots Nation, and several other national advocacy partners also marks the 46th anniversary of the Hyde Amendment. And for those who don't know, the Hyde Amendment blocks federal Medicaid dollars, along with all other federal funds, from going towards abortion care, meaning Medicaid recipients have to pay out of pocket for care. Many Black reproductive advocates argue that keeping Hyde in place makes abortion care costs prohibitive for low-income folks who simply can't afford the hundreds or even thousands of dollars in out-of-pocket costs for abortion care. So when we're looking at some of the big policies, it's hard. It's hard for us to even get to that place if we don't find some consensus among each other first. And Absolutely. I don't know how to do that, Dr. Avis. I really don't. I don't know if we just need to have some more guided conversations about this, or if it's a matter of generation, because you got 25, 30, 35-year-old Black men who say, man, all these women are a bunch of this and that. And all these young ladies, like all these dudes or N-words are a bunch of this and that. Like, I don't know how we can even get to that place of talking about keeping the Hyde Amendment in place if we can't even see the value of ourselves just from personality.
Oh my God, that's so true. And that's what makes this moment so potentially tragic. Well, not even potentially, tragic in my eyes. Because you might recall, you remember the studies that showed, for example, in the election that actually resulted in Donald Trump sliding into the White House, there were some studies that was done after that talked about all the money that was injected in that campaign from right-wing entities here in the United States, as well as even from Russia, specifically targeting the Black community with messaging that was meant to make us think that the person online was actually a Black person, but it wasn't. And that person, and they were targeting us with messaging to make us not want to vote at minimum, or make us vote for Trump. But the main thing was to make us not vote. They wanted to suppress our vote. And it was a very effective campaign. They spent more money on the Black community trying to suppress our vote than on any other community. For example, than they spent on the white community trying to get them to get out to the vote, for example, for Donald Trump. Now, here is why I'm bringing that up. As I alluded to, these types of vitriolic leanings, to me, they are a somewhat recent phenomena, you know, and it's tied to so much in our culture, but it makes me wonder, it makes me feel like we're getting played. Are we not seeing the same? Is it possible that the same sort of activities can be going on right now, injecting, if it's not complete trolls like was the case, or bots like was the case previously, are people being paid to inject specific vitriolic venom in this space, one against the other? Because what you said is absolutely correct. When we are busy fighting each other, name calling each other, hating literally each other, then guess what? They get to run amok in terms of all of their policy goals that they have, that they're going after. And you're exactly right. How can we unify around helping poor women be able to access reproductive freedom and reproductive justice if we sit in here calling each other every name but, you know, child of God, as my mom would say? You know, it is crazy to see what's going on. I mean, I was speaking to my assistant about this the other day. I feel like right now we are under attack as a community. We are at war, or we have entities that are at war against us, but we don't even realize it. And you can't even win a fight if you don't know that you're in a battle. You can't win the fight if you don't even realize you're in a battle. And my fear is that right now we are in this battle and we don't even know it. And that means that we're going to lose.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jules, I want to bring you into this conversation as well, and share your thoughts. Pose your questions to Dr. Avis Jones, the Weaver, who has always talked about these issues on Roland's show. But, you know, looking at the big picture, Jules, we got a lot of work to do. And it's important that Black men stand in support of Black women, not just in words, but in deeds as well.
Right. So a couple of things that Dr. Avis brought up, and I think they were key. So when she started talking, I started thinking about coming from different communities. So a former community I lived in the city, it's like when you look around, all you see are liquor stores and you see, you know, corner stores. Those are the type of things that are trying to implant into that community to keep that community doing what it's continued to do, so it doesn't focus on trying to get out of that situation. And that's the same thing I feel like it relates when talking about women's rights. It's like when she's saying that, you know, we're fighting against each other so much as far as the culture because we're implanted with what's been given to us around in our spaces via social media or via our actual lives. And so much is being brought to us negative that's around us that all we know is the negativity. So instead of trying to fight for what's right to get out of those situations, we're continually battling against each other. And then there goes the issue at hand being taken away from us again of women, of Black women. Now is no longer going to be on the forefront because we can't even focus on getting ourselves out of these situations because we're now battling against ourselves. I remember a key story I used to tell people all the time. It's like when I did a lot of my community activism work, if you notice, a lot of times I don't associate my name with but so many different community organizations. The problem with that is because everybody wants to be the leader to fix the community, but nobody wants to come together and say, hey, we all got the same ideas. Let's work together. No, there's always a power struggle. So somebody has to be on top. Oh, this is my idea. This is who I bought. Instead of, hey, they're doing the same thing I'm doing. They're doing the same thing we're doing. We all working the same goals. Let's push the goal together. But it's too many minor organizations all doing the same thing. Look how many organizations in the city. Look how many clubs and different things are trying to push the same agendas, whether it's for women's rights or for urban rights as well in these communities. And it's like, churches even as well, because I can bring up the religious side as well, them trying to do their part. But it's like, hey, if you sit down and focus on the issue and let the issue be the drive instead of your personal clout or your personal following on social media or your personal media gain that you can get or financial gain, then that's where the issue lies. And that's the point that when she spoke about that, that's what struck the most with me.
So, you know, and I think that Dr. Avis, that when we're talking about you, and I think Jules is hitting on a cultural point, which I think is the trend right now, that if you talk about male-female relationships, then you're going to get some attention, right?
Oh,
that
yeah.
if you I saw some dude my wife showed me some post some dude made about Rihanna performing at the Super Bowl and how by her just having her baby, she needs to be at home. He said, as a man, I would encourage you to stay at home with your child, not move around as much, take care of yourself. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Just some random black man telling a sister as if women never worked while they were pregnant or didn't go back to work after they gave birth in a very short period of time. Don't jump around, don't, sister, you should be home. I'm looking at this guy like, boy, you on the wrong side. And boy, did the internet light his ass up. I ain't seen so many black, but then a thought to me came to my mind was like, dude is just trying to get some he was just trying to get some clout, right? And here's the problem. You are going in on your sister.
Yeah.
And Doc, you asked this question, what do we gain? You really gain nothing.
Oh my God.
We really gain nothing, right?
Exactly.
And when I see those and I see posts like this all the time from black men. I see posts, crazy ass posts from black women about men. And I'm thinking to myself, man, we really going in the wrong direction because the enemy of our rise is looking at all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And you said it. And so so people don't think it's a conspiracy theory for me, Doc. You said it. You said something must be going on where ideas are being introduced into the conversations, whether it's in a social media post, whether it's in meetings. Something is going on to disrupt the unity of black men and black women. Something is legitimately going on. And I think that we as our people, and this is why we have the show, we have to recognize when somebody trying to sow a seed of dissension among the family.
Yes. Yes, we sure do. I mean, come on now. If we know just a little bit about our history, okay, then we would know, when has there not been a moment? I mean, it just came out the other day about how the FBI had been, in essence, spying on Aretha Franklin for 40 years, right? All the way up to, all the way up to, I think it was 2007. I mean, this is very, very recent. So what I'm suggesting here is, when have there not been outside forces attempting to redirect our narrative from within, from infiltrating us, right? And making us to think the way that they want us to think in order to cause internal dissension. The whole point of COINTELPRO was not only to murder people, but also to cause internal dissension, right? And I just want people to understand that hasn't gone away. And it's beyond even the old system, and it's beyond the FBI. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. That's why I'm suggesting that. I think about my parents. I think about that generation. I don't even have to think that long back. I mean, I'm just thinking about old school hip hop, like my era of hip hop in the 1980s, for example. That's how old school. That's some real old school hip hop. So, in that moment, even if you're just talking about hip hop and how what the focus was, what we talked about, the focus on history, on improving our self-esteem, on knowing who we are, on respecting one another as men, as black men and black women, and the very intentional shift in the direction of the music and the messaging that was then infiltrated into our culture from that very intentional shift. And you think about so many things that have happened since then in terms of what's going on in social media. My suggestion is we do have to be more discerning about the what we are hearing in these public spheres, and then be able to critique who benefits from us believing this. And when you start to think in that way, then you can have a more critical eye at the information that you are being spoon-fed, and be more selective about what you value and what you don't pay 1 second's notice to, so that you won't get caught up in that system of hurting ourselves so that other people can win.
Well, I see a couple of things, and Jules and Doc, I would love to get your take on this. One is, I think now we're at a place where Black men have a different value system than Black women. We're seeing things differently as it relates to community, as it relates to family, as it relates to ourselves. So our value system seems to be misaligned from each other. The other thing is, we're seeing that because, and I've been wanting to talk about this, Dr. Avis. There's been a recent book that's come out called Of Boys and Men. And Of Boys and Men, the author talks about how the status of the man, not just Black man, but the man in America, is on the decline, whether you're talking about in the educational space, the social space, the economic space, that we're seeing men on a decline, and so much so that men no longer feel motivated to lead the household, to lead the communities. And we suffer, and we're seeing what they call an aspiration gap, where men don't have the same drive and ambition and motivation as women. So I'm seeing all of these things in play, and I'm thinking to myself, Dr. Avis and Jules, like, that just goes to show us the misalignment. We got the values issue. Now you got men who the country is looking down upon, not just Black men, because white men are suffering too, right? Latino men. But we're seeing that men and manhood is under, for lack of a better word, is under attack, so much so that men just don't want to be men no more. Men don't want to be the support. Men don't want to be the backbone. Men don't want to be the foundation. And so women have to step up to lead. Women have to say, I want autonomy of my body. Women have to say, I want to be paid more, without the voice of a man behind them. And I'm wondering, with this trend going, are we going to see a different America in the next 10 to 15 years? We often talk about the idea of a woman not being president, but I can see that happening. I can really see that happening, because people are losing faith and hope in men.
Interesting.
Jules, what's your take, bro?
You ready? Because I'm
ready, Jules. I'm ready.
Okay. So I hear about it all the time, and I see it often. So preface myself, my comments are just pertaining to me and my spaces, so nobody take offense. I came from a Black woman. I was raised by a great Black woman. I have a great father. Let's not take nothing from that. But I grew up in a single parent household. So my mother did a lot to make sure that I was on a straight and narrow to get to where I had to get to in life, to the stage now. Because I'm on the culture. So obviously I got some little intellect to be on the show to talk and discuss and a myriad of topics, whether it be politics, sports, women's rights, whatever. I can talk it because of what I was raised by, what I was seeing, and what I seen growing up. The conversations that I hear a lot of times in this day and age, and I'm sad to say, but I'm going to say it, is about the lack of the power of the respect of the man. The men now are soft. SAWFT, soft. Okay? And that's what Black women have to deal with on a consistent basis. They don't want to work. They don't have no ambitions. They don't want education. Some not even raising their children. And that's the problem that's keep on happening. And that what's happening is you're having more and more generations create more and more soft men. So there's no more masculinity in the man because it's being taken away from us on both sides of the argument, whether it's from the men being raised in their communities or from the argument of, from what we're looking at a political state or day and time and age now where, the masculine man is not the dominant now because you have so many different types of genders and things going on and agendas being preached in the forefront of social media and culture right now. So there's so many different ways that a man is being broken down, whether it's from the household, from his community, or from the actual state of the world. So now that they're trying to find an identity and they've been the problem finding the identity, a lot of them are so, men are short-minded when it comes to some issues like this that they're just going with what they see instead of trying to get the information and gain and research to be better, do better, and provide better, to be the providers that we're supposed supposed to be and take care of the responsibilities that we're supposed to take care of. Simple things like taking out trash or dumb things like that you won't even do, but you stand in a woman's house for 20, 30 days straight, not doing nothing but sitting on your behind. But, you know, I'm sorry.
Jules, calm down, brother.
I'm sorry, Culture. I've been on one today. I'm sorry.
Hey, look. If you soft, SAWFT. If you soft, don't come over here in this space. No, but I hear you, Jules, and I feel like Dr. Avis, that because of this cultural space that we find ourselves in, it all leads us back, just going back to where women stand on these issues. Yeah. It's all opening the door for women to be under attack.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I think about, for example, oftentimes Black women are criticized for being, in essence, too strong, like the strong Black woman, and too independent, all those things. And therefore, we're not perceived as very feminine, for example. And I think the larger point that was made here is that, you know, we are who we are because this is who we have to be to survive, period. And it's you know, that comes from a history of, you know, being right beside you all, being right beside our men, you know, in the fields, in those spaces where we've been the brunt of the whip, just like you, right? And so we have built up this strength that, unfortunately, I believe sometimes we're attacked for being who we've had to be to survive. And not just for us to survive, but for us to be able to make sure that our children survive, for us to make sure that you survive. We couldn't be the dainty little feminine woman that maybe a white woman could be. If we were that, there would be no Black people in this country right now. I'll be perfectly honest with you, because we would have been killed off, okay? We had to be who we had to be to survive. And all that I ask as a Black woman is that we are not castigated for being that. It's that we are recognized, and, you know, recognized for being that source of sort of strength that makes sure that our family is here, that our family lives, that our children are able to, you know, have their future and be recognized for that and not be castigated for it. I think that, to me, is a minimal ask that I would like to see, a respect for who we are and who we have been and who we continue to be in order for us to live and thrive in this nation.
And I would agree with you wholeheartedly there, Dr. Avis. What do you think, you know, as women made this call on Friday for a day without us to look at the issue again of reproductive rights, looking at abortion, like what do we do now? What would be the next step that you think would be the best step for us to take to get to that goal?
Yeah, well, I think number one, we have to, first of all, right now, we have to all make sure that we're registered to vote and that we actually vote in the midterm elections. This is so critical. It is so consequential. As I mentioned, we are at war right now. And in this moment, in terms of everything that's happening writ large with regards to the policy dynamic, our best weapon is the vote. So we have to make sure that we utilize that. But in addition to that, I would also argue that I really would want to challenge us to take a moment to, you know, reach out to our brother or our sister and have conversations similar to what we're having right now, so that we can understand the challenges that Black men face in this nation from a much more nuanced way than you could if you're just a woman trying to think about. Like, I have sons, right? And I am very sensitive to, you know, the world that they face, because obviously I love them. But I would never actually know what it's like for them to navigate the space in a Black male form, right? And the reverse is true for them, understanding what it's like for me to navigate this space as a Black woman. And I think it's very important that we get some greater understanding between us as a family about what the challenges are that each of us face in our dynamic, and then start to really make a commitment to make sure that we are there for the other one, right? To support them, to lift them up, never to castigate them down. You will not find any place where I am anywhere saying negative things about Black men, this, Black men, that. First of all, I know it's not true, right? You know, I love Black men, had amazing father, love my sons, I'm telling you. But in addition to that, I understand that that is a very dangerous venom to our community. And we just need to stop it. We need to stop it, grow up, and have the courage to actually speak to people with respect, and maybe you'll learn something.
And it's got to be, I want to take it one step further, Doc, if I may. It has to be a very genuine, authentic love.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I think that there has to be, and I'm just bringing it up because it's one thing to be like, oh, I love Black women, versus another thing is that you're sacrificing yourself in some way, shape, or form to make sure that women are seen and heard, that you're opening up your platforms. Whatever you do, that there is an open invitation, even if a woman disagrees with you on certain things, that she has the space, she has the support, that there's something, there has to be some level of sacrifice, because we know women have, we don't have to go through the history, so we know Black women have always been there. But for men, there has to be something intentional. It can't just be conditional. It got to be unconditional. It's like, even when you don't agree with a sister, you applaud the sister because she's standing up and speaking her truth. Even if you do agree with the sister, then you continue to applaud the sister and you show your support. It's got to be something intentional and authentic about it, because I know as men, it's trendy. And I know for young women, you might have heard this from young men, it's trendy for a man to say, no, I'm all right, I'm all in, I'm all in. But when it comes down to making those decisions about your family, making those decisions in the relationship, making those decisions about social issues, that's when you know what kind of man you're dealing with. That's when you know what type of woman you're dealing with. You know, and yes, ma'am.
No, I was just completely agreeing with you. I mean, you can say anything in the general sense, but how do you follow what you say up with actions? That's where it really counts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let me just take a couple of comments from our online culture crew, Dr. Avis, because we got a lot of people that are checking in. First and foremost, I didn't know you had such an amazing fan club, because they just all jumped into our online chat. Culture crew right here. They love you, Doc. They watch you on RMU. They love you. People getting the heart emoji. Dr. Avis.
Hey, everybody.
They love you. Look, check this out. Taylor, you checked in and said, agreed, the social media informed generation is the perfect playing ground. Yep. Jules, you talked about that. It is, we all getting played, as Dr. Avis said. And we might just have to start jumping off of the offline when you see certain conversations brewing. Don't get involved. Don't read the comments. Matter of fact, drop a jewel and say, hey, this is adding to the division, something. But we got to definitely see that we're all getting played right now. Brother King Lee, you checked in and said, right on, Sister Avis. I think many of us are being played through trolls, etc. Yep. Tiana, you checked in. You said this conversation needs a whole hour. Well, we gave it about 30 minutes. So, y'all can have the other 30 minutes offline. But Tiana, I appreciate you. And you're absolutely right. There's not enough time to talk about how do we mend the differences between the man and the woman. McCole, you checked in. Good to hear from you, McCole. You said Black men and Black women must work together. We must love each other and support each other. There is an agenda to keep us divided. We are stronger together. Absolutely. Absolutely. Best way possible. You said touchy subject, but we got to talk about the decline of Black men in the family structure. Facts. We do have to talk about that. But I think that here's the thing. When we talk about those things, how we talk about those things matters.
Yes.
And I'm saying that if a woman is like any woman who's sharing with you her heart, don't just bring up the stuff that's on your heart. Just listen, bro. Just sit back and listen. If a woman is saying, I want to have a talk about a day without us, don't be like, well, what about the Black man's day?
Don't all lives matter us, in other words.
Right. Now you're taking away, now you're messing up the issue. Exactly.
Joker talking. Like, Like, Negro, you ain't even think about a day. Now, as soon as we talk about our day, you talk about, well, where's my day?
Like a kid, where's my toy?
I like the Dr. Davis. Don't all lives matter us. Thank you so much. P. Jackson, you said women present a more masculine energy to be a boss, and more men are displaying more feminine energy. And that's not by nature. Mm-hmm. That's by design. Mm-hmm. That is by design, folks. We're not, look, we can't act like certain things aren't happening around us. We got to look at that. P. Jackson, thank you. Rashida, guess you said Jules P. sounded like he was rapping the issue. Love it. Yep. Yep. And the best way possible, you also said Dr. Avis doesn't allow those black gender wars on any platform. I love her perspective and appreciate her efforts. There it is, right there. Yeah. There it is. Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver, we are truly, truly appreciate you. We know you've done on a hell of a lot of great work. A women empowerment expert. You teach folks about career and about making the best decisions. How do people get in touch with you? Because it is women and sisters like you that's going to take the culture to the next level. And that is taking the culture to the next level. So how do we get in touch with you, sis?
I appreciate that. So you can all log on to dravismentoring.com and find out more about me and what I do. Excited to see you over there. You can also find me on Instagram, same place, Dr. Avis Mentoring.
And Doc, if you don't mind, we would certainly love to bring you back on because you are a dynamic voice to these discussions. So thank you so much again for your time. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk about some trends posts and doing the most. And so stay with us. That's all happening on today's edition of The Culture. We'll be right back.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
All right, folks, it's time for us to bring you up to date on some of the latest happenings around the social media circuit. So it's time now for Trends Post and Doing the Most. Thought I was going to get my intro. Boom, there you go. There we go. All right, let's bring back Jules P very quickly as we have this conversation. I love it, yo. I love live. I love live streaming, bro. I do. All right, there we go, folks. All right, let's talk. Let's talk about some of the folks that are streaming right now. All right, first and foremost, okay, so I'm not sure how to have this conversation, Jules. So I'm kind of going to lean on you to give me some perspective. Rachel Dolezal.
I saw pictures.
Yeah. Y'all seen this? Now, Rachel Dolezal, y'all remember back in about 2015, she really hit the national scene when she is a white woman born from two white parents. She self-identified herself as a Black woman. So much so that she was leading a chapter of the NAACP. Y'all remember this woman? She calls herself a Black woman. That's what she identifies herself as. And as a result of that situation, because y'all remember it created like a firestorm of whether people can do it, she has created the term transracial. I'm not making this up, folks. She's created this term transracial. And as a result of that, it got people to wonder, you know, what this whole idea of self-identifying as Black is all about. Well, she still self-identifies as Black, but now she's taken her transracialness to a whole new level. She has actually changed her name to Nkechi Diallo.
Continue.
And as a result of that, she has started to do other things. Now, one of the things that she's doing actually for money, and this has been trending right now, is she created an OnlyFans account.
Boom.
She started this OnlyFans to honor Fenty owner, hip hop R&B sensation Rihanna, because Rachel's lingerie photos were leaked. I don't know if we should show the OnlyFans. There was only like one photo that I've seen, and I'm like, lady, what are you doing? Apparently, according to the report, she decided to go on an OnlyFans route because, like a lot of women, she has decided to use that as her source of income to pay the bills. Here's a woman, folks, that is doing the most. Jules, what's your take?
Okay. Mine's plain and simple. Do your thing. I don't care. She ain't like, do your thing. You know why I say that? Because I've been on the culture now, looking at the timer for an hour and 50 minutes and 27 seconds. I've been preaching Blackness. I've been uplifting the men and the women in our community. I've been, supporting Supreme Court Justice Jackson. I got this. But when I make music, I don't want you to think that all my music is like, preachy and straight from the soul and I'm somewhere, in a field just, thinking about my ancestors when I'm writing. Like, no, I make music that I like to enjoy to listen to. So when you listen to my album, don't come on there like, well, no, I'm not degrading women. I'm not disrespecting anybody. So to get that mindset out your head. But if I'm talking about taking a shot of Hennessy somewhere at a bar, that's what I do in my real life. If I'm talking about going on trips in Miami, living it up, that's what I do in my real life. When me and my girl go to Vegas, have a good time, do what we do, I'm living my life. So that's what I'm saying. So I don't care what your past is. Do what you do. I'm not mad at Shorty. I seen the pictures. Hey, I even bought Rihanna's I got some Savage Fenty box of briefs coming in the mail actually in the next couple of days because I'm on the website. So I'm all for it, man. Do you? I ain't with all that. I ain't judging nobody, because you can judge my life. I done made some terrible decisions. I don't want nobody judging me either. So do you, Shorty? I'm with it. Next.
Oh man! All right, let me share with you what some of our culture crew members are saying. Abby, I had to do it, y'all. I had to do it. I was debating whether I should even include this story, but I was like, hell with it. It's Monday. It's the culture. Let's go.
So yeah, everything raunchy and don't need to be talked about. I'm for. That's what Mondays are for. Bring it to me.
Look, I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know how to like frame this story. Like, I just want to let y'all know. Like, I don't know. I know that there's something inherently wrong about this. I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not mad. Look, a lot of women, and especially now, if you don't know what OnlyFans is a platform where it's it really is not just about sex or selling sex online. You can do other things, but it has become known as that space where, sexual pictures, sexual acts, all of those things are done, and people pay a cost to subscribe to the person that set up their account. They pay a monthly fee for it. And OnlyFans continues to be a very
lucrative.
I don't want to say it's a part of the culture that we really we can certainly acknowledge, because a lot of women, and I'm telling you, I've heard the conversations among Black women. A lot of Black women have thought about alternative forms of income through OnlyFans. Now, part of that is because we've seen stories. Now, Rachel Dolezal, I think she charges like $9.99 a month. That's $9.99, folks, not 1,000. But she charged like $9.99. But then when you see the story of Black China, who was a reality show star, who earns a crazy amount. Now, I've seen this story and I've thought it to myself, like, this can't be real. But a lot of other places are reporting it. She earns $20 million a month. She's one of the highest earners on the OnlyFans website, and she sells herself through videos and pictures and all of these other things, content, and makes that much money a month. So it just goes to show you where we are in the culture. I'm not upset that Rachel Dolezal decided, I mean, that's her life too, like you said, Jules, but the fact that I don't even know what to say, y'all. I really don't. Let me go to my culture crew. Let me go to my online culture crew, see what folks are saying.
I said.
Let me see. Let me put it out there. Let's pull up some of the. All right, McCole, you said it sounds like Rachel D is trying to profit off Black culture and identity. She needs to go somewhere, get somewhere, and sit down. I mean, she brought up transracial. Y'all know, like, people are redefining themselves, not based upon cultural standards or society standards, but based upon their personal preference. And let me just, should you not, I guess the big thing from this conversation is, regardless of what she does, should you just respect her for what she wants to be called? If she wants to self-identify as a Black woman, should we just keep telling, no, you're white?
I got a bigger issue.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But Nicole, you got that. Thank you. Oh, let me just get this one in, and Jules, I want to hear you. Real Brooklyn, I woke up this morning and I decided to want to be categorized as John Wick. Hey, look. I mean, look, I'm not even trying to make light of it. I'm not even trying to make light of it because guess what? Real Brooklyn, you know it and I know it, bro. That's the culture we're in. You can change who you want to, you want to be somebody else, you can. Jules, we know Jules P is not your birth name. That was the name that you gave to your hip hop persona. Right? So we all play a role. Like we all, quote unquote, have other parts of ourselves. I remember when Beyonce came out and she started doing Sasha Fierce. Y'all remember that? She was, oh, I'm Sasha Fierce. And I'm like, who the hell is that? But is that a problem?
Right. That's the point I'm making. So, all right. Because all right, to our culture crew, and I want y'all to understand Jules P for real, like, or as my paycheck say, Donovan. We're talking to Donovan now. There is a bigger world than social media. There's reality. And the problem is we've gotten so fixated on the social media realm that people forgot what life was like before social media. They forgot real life. I say that to say when people do things like OnlyFans and things like that of that nature, or whether you're using OnlyFans to pimp out your body, men, women, whatever you're doing, are we at a stage and age where you're no longer allowed to make mistakes? When I say mistakes, it's like, are you not allowed to do things like this for a time period because that's what you had to do or that's what you're going through? And then say, for instance, if they wanted to run, I ain't gonna say political, say if they wanted to open up a business, an actual legit business 2 years down the line, it's like, oh, you the OnlyFans, we can't support you. And it's like the problem that I have with this world, and I'm saying world, is people are not allowed to make mistakes anymore because of social media. It's like once you do something, you're not allowed to do anything else positive in life. It's always going to be brought back to that. Now, granted, if you're doing things that are detrimental to a community or you're racist or you're a bigot or whatever, then yeah, granted, you don't deserve to have a seat at this conversation. But I'm talking about people that are doing things for themselves, whether they pimp, whatever they do, whatever. I feel like the world has come to a space, and I'm not just talking about Rachel Dolezal, like this is off that conversation. This is a general consensus conversation about social media. This is why I hate social media. I really do. I feel like you're not allowed to make mistakes anymore because of social media. You all remember when we were in high school, because again, the people that I'm talking to in the culture crew, we didn't have Instagram and Facebook. We were in high school. None of this existed. When you had kids that didn't do things properly or weren't in the right mind space, what did? You just ignored it. That wasn't your business. You stayed away from it. You stayed in your path. So why can't we do the same thing in the social media realm? Just ignore it. Let them do them. Let them figure out their trials and tribulations, their struggles. You continue living your life. And then when they figure it out, they come back around. If they on the right track, all right, we're open arms. All right, welcome back. We just, you lost it for a minute. Because I'm speaking from personal experience. I've never been 100% right my whole entire life. So why am I sitting here listening to so many people judge others for decisions they made? You can have opinions, that's fine. But it's like you're allowed to make mistakes or go down the wrong path. And then as long as you fix yourself later, I don't put a timetable number. If it takes 10, 15 years, whatever, you're still allowed to come back and revisit and spin the block and hit this conversation of, okay, now that you got your life together, you can go forward and move forward. So if this is just a little ploy for right now, where all these people are doing, these celebrities, especially during the pandemic when it really popped off, then whatever, it is what it is. That's your business. That's not Jules P's business. That's not Donovan's business. But if you want to come back and do something positive in my community, or you want to do something that's going to benefit the culture, I'm not going to show, oh, you did this. Like, no, all right, you had your little time. Let's spin the block. Let's get back on track. Okay, let's lock in and let's go forward. That's just me personally.
Facts. All right, let's go back to our culture crew. Jayla, why you got to be so damn funny? Jayla checked in and said maybe she got with PBS's Dr. Gates Finding Your Roots and found out there was some black blood in the family tree. Jayla, it's time for you to go. Thank you for your time. Oh my gosh. Brother Kingley, you said $9.99. Put that amount of money to better use. Yeah, you could do that. You can do that, King. I don't know. Tell the guys that are buying that are investing in this platform that. L. Brown checked in. Thank you, King. You said Cardi B thinks she is black learning. Wow. Turner family. You say, come on now, everyone is trying to get paid to survive. And unfortunately, a lot of women are pimping themselves out via OnlyFans or on the streets. Yeah, that's the sad part. That's the sad part. But that's what this moment will make you do. The culture will make you pimp yourself out. It's not even on the OnlyFans platform. Look at how much we pimp ourselves out in terms of wanting to be quote unquote influencers. You're basically a salesperson. You basically say, use my body, use my face as a billboard. I want to influence people to buy your products. I want to influence people to buy your clothes. I want to influence people to your way of thought. Use me. And that is a whole different conversation that we probably should have here on A Culture, to look at the impact of that on the positives and the negative sides of it, that you decide to use yourself, you pimp yourself out. And what does that do to you psychologically? What does that do to you emotionally? What does that do to you in the space of social media? We got to have a conversation about that. Taylor, Turner family, great comment. Taylor, you said redefining or making up words. Hey, people are redefining themselves. I say redefine. I think people are not happy with themselves, Taylor. You know it and I know it. People aren't happy with themselves. And if someone asks you in a very, very serious way, are you fully happy with how you look, with the way your body is shaped? All of those things, you probably would say no. But why would you say no? Because we're all influenced by the culture. We're all influenced by the standards of beauty, right? We're all influenced by wanting to be accepted. We're all influenced by wanting to be quote unquote liked. We're all influenced by wanting our thoughts to be seen as trendy or trending. We're all influenced by it. You just got to check yourself. It's crazy because social media used to be this thing where you just had some fun, connect with some friends. Now it's like this psychological, moral thing as well. So it's very, very deep. Janae, you said, so there's disposable income out there, $20 million. Inflation, what? Hey, look, let me tell you, I was reading this History Jewels at one time, and it was saying that during the downturn in any type of economic or financial situation in the country, you start to see more money being invested in people's vices. I agree.
I agree 100%.
I agree. If you're feeling like your life is on the down, if you feel like you're not making enough money, you're going to buy more liquor. You're going to buy more to smoke. You might even go to the club, go to the strip club more. You're going to watch more porn. Something, quote unquote, to take your mind off of that harsh reality. You're going to go into a level of escapism.
And contrary to belief, recessions create more millionaires. So.
Depends on what business you in.
Whether create more millionaires. So
yeah. I think I'm saying that right. You say we can't do anything about sick people, including her subscribers, plus with the reason she can't get a job now. LOL. It's people are into what they're into. You know what I'm saying? People are into what they're into. And even though sometimes we may not understand it, as long as it, quote unquote, some people say, well, it doesn't bother. I'm not harming anyone. That's true. If you're just watching something on a television screen, that's on you. But we're all interconnected culturally because, and man, I got so many thoughts around this idea of pornography, of of the idea of sex sells, we really should like further explore this, because it spills over into how men see women, how women see men. It spills into the expectations that we have of one another. It spills into a lot. Pornography is such a jarring and is so like, can be so destructive in a lot of different ways. And if you have a culture that constantly encourages us to be in that space, then what's going to be the impact of that? And David, you checked in and said, yep, social media is a whole resume. Absolutely. All right. Wow. Well, we will see if you, I don't know, Jules, if you're going to subscribe to her page or not. I'm not going to subscribe.
I'm cool.
That's what it is.
Y'all can do what y'all want,
That's
but I
what it is.
ain't subscribing. That's now y'all can keep that.
Y'all can keep that. All right, for the final trending topic, folks, very quickly, there is a movie that's going to be hitting the theaters on October the 14th. I thought that it would be good to have you check it out. It's the movie about the great tragedy of our little brother Emmett Till. Here is the trailer for the new movie Till that's planned to hit theaters October the 14th. Check it out.
Extra careful. No. Oh, be small.
Like this?
The first time I heard about the Emmett Till event, I was in elementary school.
You look like a movie star.
What?
Bye-bye.
It's one of those stories that if you're black, you've heard about it.
I want to talk to you about that boy.
Most of us would not know who Emmett Till was if it weren't for Mamie.
The whole world has to see what happened to my son.
Mamie was very aware and intentional about the power of the image to really bring awareness that would result in a level of change and activism and to galvanize people into doing something.
You're not just my boo anymore.
Orion exists to give a platform to the myriad of filmmakers like Chinoya that have something to contribute to the cinematic canon of American film. And I'm really, really committed to making movies, not just by us, but for us.
We put Emmett's story in its proper context and history to understand how his story sparked the American Civil Rights Movement.
We get to see how Mamie fights for justice. If something is happening to one of us, it is happening to all of us, and we witness her come into a particular kind of power and to be the progenitor of the civil rights movement.
Those pictures of your son changed people's lives.
Mamie turned tragedy into purpose, which is why we sit here today.
This story needs to be told in a way that is humanizing, empowering, and that is necessary. There will be no physical violence against Black people on screen because I'm not interested in relishing in that kind of physical trauma. We're gonna begin and end in a place of joy.
You just beeped when you should have bopped.
Mamie was a catalyst for change. She affected millions of lives for the better. Mamie Till Mobley is a hero.
The lynching of my son has shown me that what happens to any of us, anywhere in the world, had better be the business of us all.
I'm saying that, Jules.
We're going to begin and end in a place of love. That's the only line we need to talk about. That's it. I'm cool. I'm good.
Seeing that.
Yep.
So that's hitting theaters on October the 14th. The movie is Till. Of course, it talks about the killing of Emmett Till, and more importantly, it shifts the focus on his mother's character, talking about what she did as a result of that horrific tragedy. And so it should be very, very good. As you can see, some of the filmmakers, some of the folks behind the scenes, the Black faces behind the scenes, and others who have said that this is important to make. And I'm just happy that we're starting to see some more historical depictions of certain moments of our history, Jules. It makes all the difference in the world, because to the next generation, again, I think somebody said you didn't know about the story. Whoopi said that every Black person was told. But we're literally in a time where certain moments in our history are not being communicated, are not being taught to Black children. So when those gaps happen, you got to have a movie or something to help fill in the gaps. What's your take on that, bro?
Facts. I agree 100%. And also, again, translates to the next generation for the ones who don't know the full entire story, who are just hearing about this most recent events of Emmett Till being brought back up in the most recent year. So I agree.
Absolutely. There it is. All right, folks. Well, that is it for trending, for Trends Post and Doing the Most. My man, Jules P. Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for your sharp insight, folks. I'm loving what you bring into the conversation. So thank you for being so good for the culture, Jules.
Happy homecoming, Morgan. We got Norfolk State this weekend. Happy homecoming, baby.
There it is. There it is. There it is. Jules P. checking in. All right, folks. That's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation, both online, my online culture crew. Thank you. I want to thank Dr. Avis Jones Weaver for stopping through to share her insight and so much more. Look, this is why we do what we do. This is why we have this platform. It's important for us to know exactly what's going on in our community. So your support is everything. Make sure you go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you support the culture. Make sure that you give, you share the content, and so much more, because your support matters so much to us. It means everything to us. This is why we do what we do. So again, blackstarnetwork.com. Get all the details on support and continue to share the content about the show. Stay tuned. Up next is 6:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is Roland Martin Unfiltered. Make sure y'all follow me on my social media platforms at The Real Farajii on Instagram and Farajii on Twitter. And I love to connect with you all as we have these conversations. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Have a great evening, folks. Talk to you tomorrow. Peace.